Guess what we're bringing back, boys?
Welcome to My Sock Summer Spooky Story Time.
Holy shit, this is really scary.
Yes. That is my kindergarten and age daughter saying shit all over the internet for the second year in a row. She is no longer in kindergarten. She's in first grade, so she could say the F word this time. But so do story time every once in a while. We're getting close to the Devil's Eve, the Hallows Eve, Halloween, and it was like, I'm going to do a story about some freaky shit, right? Like some spooky shit again. Now, I'm a huge fan of horror. Like, I'm not like the biggest horror fan, but I am a huge fan of Friday the 13th. And I was like, nice. I need to find out if Friday the 13th was actually based on a true story. Now, I went and looked. Yeah, trust me.
Wow. Hello, let's go, baby. Let's go.
I'm intrigued.
So I go and look. So I look first. I looked up other franchises too. Like I looked up Halloween. Halloween, not based on a real true story, but the name is a person that they both knew, and the kid is apparently like the Michael Myers kid is based on a kid that they saw in a mental institution when John Carpenter saw when he was in Western Kentucky. Psychiatric school or something. I don't know. He did something on a school trip or something and saw this kid, and the kid had the look of death in his eyes, right? So the Michael Myers case was, or like character was based on this kid. The name is a friend of theirs. Now, as far as you can tell, there is no Jason Voorhees. That did not happen. He did not die, and then his mom went crazy and went through and killed everybody at Camp Crystal Lake. But the movies were based loosely around fucking actual events. And not only are they actual events, but guess what, Chirizi?
What?
Oh, I fucked up. The crime is also unsolved. That's right. So tonight, me, My Sock Summer, I'm gonna bring to you the unsolved mystery of the Lake Bodom murders. I love that song. I could honestly
repeat the name of it. I think
Lake Bodom Murders.
Lake Bodom. Okay.
Lake Bodom.
Robert Stack's so jealous right now.
Oh, dude. Robert Stack is fucking major rager hard in his coffin right now. Like, you know what? He probably is.
I'm with Jared. He says, thanks. That song gives me nightmares. Yeah, we are the right age where when that thing came on and you'd watch it, like, so holy shit, this person's out there.
So fucking terrifying.
That house in the middle of nowhere getting burned down.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah. I'm sweating, or it's so hot outside. You need that breeze, but you got to shut all the windows just in case some guy tries to creep in and like stab you to death with an ice pick. So anyway, the Lake Bodom murders. On Saturday, the 4th of June in 1960, 4 Finnish teenagers had decided to camp along the shore of Lake Bodom while on a motorcycle trip. Sometime between 4 a.m. and 6 a.m., the early morning hours of Sunday, June 5th, Anya, Malia, and Seppo were all stabbed and bludgeoned to death by an unknown assailant. Niles Gustafsson was the only survivor of the massacre. He had a fractured facial bones that appeared to confirm his story of being a victim. He stated afterwards that he had seen a glimpse of the attacker clothed in black with bright red eyes coming for them. Now, I watched a bunch of YouTube videos today. One guy said it was clearly Satan that came in and got him because he had the red eyes. I don't know. I'm not here to confirm or deny it. Could have been.
He was driving a Mazda.
He was driving a Mazda. A demon.
That was a getaway car.
Is a demon. About 6 a.m., a group of boys bird watching, which is just crazy. In Finland, 6 a.m., boys are out. They're like, hey, let's go look for some birds. You know what they were doing? Smoking the weed. Exactly. So their bird watchings from distance away had reportedly seen the tent that they were all staying in collapsed, and a blonde man walked away from the site. The bodies of the victims were discovered then at 11 a.m. by a carpenter, not Jesus. So the Jesus
we're combining stories here.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate the clarification. MSS is doing a good job.
It was a guy lived in the neighborhood who just happened to be a carpenter. It wasn't Jesus. He was not born of a virgin mother and a father who yelled at her every night and said, well, how did this happen? Okay, so the killer had not injured the victims from inside the tent, but instead had attacked the occupants from outside with a knife and an unidentified blunt instrument, possibly a rock, through the sides of a tent. The murder weapons have never been located. The killer had taken several items, which detectives found puzzling, including the keys to the victims' motorcycles, which themselves had been left behind. Nils's shoes were partially hidden approximately 500 meters from the murder site. Now, 500 meters, that's 1,500 feet for you guys that don't understand meters, okay? It's probably more than 1,500 feet because I think it's like 3.5 feet in a meter, but whatever. Don't worry about it. My 4th grade teacher told me, he's like,
you guys that don't understand meters. Well, I don't know.
Like me. It's like it's not exactly 3 feet. It's like 3.25, 3.5 or some bullshit. Now, that was great. When the victims are fucking put up, right, and they're there, the police do not cordon off the site nor record the details of the scene, which was later seen as a major error. And almost immediately allowed a crowd of police officers and other people to trample around and disturb the evidence. The mistake was further exasperated by calling in soldiers to assist with the search around the lake for the missing items, several of which were never found. Nils's girlfriend, he was the one that survived, was found undressed from the waist down and was lying on top of the tent. She had suffered the most injuries and out of the victims. She was stabbed multiple times after her death, whilst the other 2 teenagers were slain with less brutality. Gustafsson was also found lying on top of the tent. There were 3 initial suspects. The first one was Vladimir Gullstrom. Many local people suspected Carl Vladimir Gullstrom, a kiosk keeper known to have been hostile towards campers. Police found no hard evidence to link him to the actual murders. They were skeptical of the supposed confessions he was said to have made because they considered him disturbed. He drowned in Lake Bodom in 1969, most likely by suicide. The people in the town knew Gillstrom was violent, cut down tents, threw rocks at people who came to his street, and some later said that it was Gillstrom they saw coming back from the murder scene, but were too afraid to call the police about him.
He sounds like a solid suspect. I'm just going to say.
Right? Killed himself 9 years after he murdered 3 people. The police never recovered DNA from Gillstrom. A book released in 2006 brings up that theory in detail. The book also claims that police almost immediately ignored much more evidence that was previously unknown to the public because of language barriers, among other things. Can't figure out what the fuck they're saying. So, it's probably not important.
Gibberish. Yeah.
There was a note in a different language that said, "I killed all these people," and it was signed.
They couldn't figure it out.
By Vlad.
I can't take it anymore. I'm going to go kill myself in the lake. I cannot read this. It's probably fine. The second suspect, and Loaf, you're gonna love this, and I'm sure anybody else that loves Seinfeld as much as you guys, Hans Assmann. Most public suspicion focused on Hans Assmann, a German-born and naturalized Finnish citizen who lives several kilometers from the shore of Lake Bodom. Now, kilometers, I have absolutely no fucking idea how to fucking decipher that.
Kilometers.
So it was just several. Yeah, whatever. Don't need
tomato,
to put
tomato. It's fine.
Everyone have a drink.
I got no problem.
Everyone have a drink. Trying to make me look stupid. Plus, I need a drink. Now, it's not necessarily legit or true, but he was also thought of to be a guard at Auschwitz, and he had moved there to get away. So they was potentially a Nazi and sent people to their death. A series of popular books created a theory of Assmann committing the Bodom killings and other murders. It was not taken seriously by police, as Assmann had an alibi for the night of the Bodom murders and was said to have been in Germany during that time of another murder that happened in the same area.
Are we even going to comment on Ass Man being the the bottom killer.
Well, the bottom killer, and also the girlfriend had bottoms out, like had ass out already during the murder. Like, look at all the clues here. Back to the ass man, the bottom, and then the other bottom, and bottom, and all this shit. Like, come on.
They don't talk about if the girl that was like undressed from the waist down was like sexually assaulted. I didn't read that anywhere. I didn't see it anywhere. But she had been like stabbed like so many times in her neck. Like so, like if the guy did that, I mean, you got a sick fuck, right? It's a real sick fuck.
I'm gonna go on a limb and say whoever did this, sick fuck, regardless.
Just in general.
Yeah.
So he was not taken seriously. On the morning of June 6, 1960, however, he had shown up at a hospital in Helsinki, which I don't know where that is, with bloody clothes on. He moved to Sweden, where he also died in the late 1990s. Assman was also a suspect in 5 other cases, even confessing to one on his deathbed. So,
wow.
I mean, what the fuck? You know, luckily there was no like translation issues with this guy. They just were like, nope, he's probably not the guy he has an alibi. He's fine. He was a Nazi, but you know, hey, you know,
and Assman also a killer, but maybe didn't do this killing. Like you know, maybe it was his signature. We'll see.
All right, so Helsinki is in Finland, which is where we're talking about. So that's good. Everyone is like, I don't know what the fuck. Everyone,
Helsinki, right, Helsinki.
Yeah. Oh, great. Thank you. I don't fuck. All right. Jesus Christ. I'm just a man with no job that does a podcast out of his basement. Christ almighty. Now the last suspect was Panetti Soenheim. During the mid-1960s, an individual named Panetti Soenheim, known for his violent tendencies, claimed to a fellow inmate that he was responsible for the murders that occurred at Lake Bodom. However, he was approximately 14 years old at the time of the murders. Mehdi questioned whether he could single-handedly overpowered 4 older teenagers, casting doubt on his involvement. So that was the last guy.
Sounds like bullshit.
Seems like it was pretty, like he was just trying to show off when he's in prison.
Yeah,
he's like, hey, just so you don't rape me tonight,
a badass.
I want you to know that I killed 4 people and they never found me. So, just so you know. Or, well, 3, actually. 3 out of 4. 3 out of 4, not bad. Now, the case goes cold, even though there are like tons of leads, right? In late March in 2004, I'm saying the crime occurred in 1960. In 2004, 44 years later, Gustafsson, the guy that survived, was arrested. He was arrested in early 2005. The Finnish National Bureau of Investigation, which is the NBI, which I think is hilarious, declared the case was solved based on new forensic analysis. According to the prosecution's interpretation of the bloodstains, Gustafsson had been drunk and excluded from the tent when he attacked the other boy, getting his jaw broken in a fight, which escalated into him committing 3 murders. Now, listen, we've all had fights with our boys, right? Probably on camping trips, potentially, or away from wherever. Has any of those fights ever escalated into you fucking murdering everyone that you're on the trip with?
I can't say.
Let me think about it. No.
Yeah.
But
I mean,
MSS, has any fight you've ever had with your friends escalated into a fucking broken jaw?
No, not on purpose.
I mean, I feel like this wasn't just a lucky punch. I feel like a guy got hit with a baseball bat or some shit.
Yeah, I don't know. And they're on motorcycles, so who knows? They're tough guys. I mean, if you look at pictures of them, they're actually not that tough looking. But anyway, the trial started on the 4th of August in 2005. And Gustafsson's defense lawyer argued that the murders were the work of one or more outsiders, and that Gustafsson would have been incapable of killing 3 people given the extent of his injuries. It had always been known that the shoes worn by the killer and hidden by him 450 meters away, 500 yards away from the tent, belonged to Gustafsson, who was found barefoot on top of the tent. Modern DNA analysis was significant for the prosecution, as it showed that the 3 murdered victims' blood was on Gustafsson's shoes, but Gustafsson's was completely absent, so his blood wasn't on his shoes.
Oh.
So I don't know. If he's not sleeping in the tent, right? If he's away from the tent, he probably took his shoes off somewhere else. That's where his shoes are. So maybe that's why his fucking feet didn't have the thing. And the shoddy investigation probably didn't even look at his feet to see if either his blood was on his feet. You know, who knows? You don't know. But like if he's sleeping away and then this happens and he comes over, it's like, what the fuck's going on? Bop, 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 bop. You know, like, and that just happens. So anyway, modern.
Well, no,
DNA,
he would have the shoes on for the murder because that's how all the blood's.
That's how the blood's in there.
So he does the murders, and then he goes hides the shoes.
Oh, that's true.
And then he like lays there with like he's like part of the.
He's
whole
like, oh
scene.
man, they got me too. They beat me up, but they.
And that's why I was asleep. I wasn't sleeping with my shoes on.
That's a good point. That's not something that I considered in my state right now. So good job. The prosecution said it followed from a lack of Gustafson blood on the shoes and that his injuries had occurred at a different time to the attack on the murdered victims. And that the only explanation of this was that Gustafson himself had committed the murders, then faked the theft of the items by hiding them, further injured himself, and then went back to the tent where, now barefoot, he pretended to be unconscious. The prosecution attempted to bolster their case by alleging an identification by the two bird watchers of Gustafson as the tall blonde man at the scene of the crime, and an assertion that he had been overheard making an incriminating remark, and also that a decade after the event, he had boasted to a woman about his guilt. Listen, we've all said some shit when we're drunk and at a bar trying to get in somebody's pants. I don't think I brutally murdered my best friend and our girlfriends is the thing that you usually put out there to like just get her to like spread them open. This doesn't usually happen.
John Carney says it was solved by Feet Finder.
That's how MSS knows. That's how MSS knows. He got the job, ladies and gentlemen. He got the job.
On the 7th of October in 2005, this is, overseas, Gustafson was acquitted of all charges. The court explained the verdict as due to the prosecution's evidence being inconclusive. No shit. Failure to show Gustafson had a motive appropriate to a crime of such extreme seriousness and certainty about the facts now being impossible given the time had elapsed. The state of Finland paid him $48,000 for the mental suffering caused by the long remand time, but the public prosecutor refused to sue Finnish newspapers for defamation. Gustafson did not use his right to bring charges against the newspaper as an injured party. So that's where we're at. And just, for our guy.
So he got his jaw broken.
Yep.
He got away with murder. And then they gave him $48,000.
And he could have went for more, Trees. He could have went after the newspaper ever.
He could have got more. And then he blamed the whole thing on the devil. This is a... I'm not sure how I feel about this story.
This is
the dumbest murderer we've ever met.
Dumbest murderer. We've clearly cracked the case. We should drive over to Finland and turn him in.
That's good. Get in the Mazda, drive to Finland.
That was spooky story time with MSS, and that's an unsolved mystery.